Hello, my name is Julie and welcome to my first of 3 freezathon vlogs. So if you missed it, I am hosting a readathon for all of December called Freezathon. There are 3 epic snow forts that are fighting for supremacy to discover who is the best genre. We've got Fortress Frost, which is a fantasy sci-fi team. We have Castle Cocoa, which is a romance cozy team. And we have Tundra Tower, which is a thrillery horror team. And yes, we did change the name. More information in the link down below. If you would like to know how the readathon works, all the information is in my previous video, which I have linked here, and I will link down below. Since I am the creator, I can cheat a little bit, and I am going to be reading for each of the teams separately. So I am going to make it so this does not negatively affect the average scores of every team. I am only going to be additive. I am going to do 3 vlogs, each one dedicated to one of the teams, and simply based on logistics and what books I have on hold, I'm going to be starting with Tundra Tower. So I'm going to be starting off December with my thrillery horror-y reads. I'm hoping to read 3 to 4 books in each of these vlogs. I'm probably going to read more per team than what I actually vlog. So I have about 5 books that I have picked out for each team, and I'm gonna vlog at least 3 of them. So let's talk about the books that I'm going to be reading for Tundra Tower. So the first one is Misery by Stephen King, which I am so excited for, and I know a bunch of other people are reading this. It counts for a ton of points. It's blue, it's got snow on the cover, it's isolated, it's wintry, it's a one-word title. I've read like 8 Stephen King books before, and I own a ton of his books because my dad found a bunch of secondhand copies of his. But this is the one that I've been excited for the most for a long time. It has a very famous movie as well, and this is about a writer who gets into a car accident and is rescued by a fan of his. But it turns out that she does not like the decision that he had to kill off his main character, and she is holding him hostage. I don't think it's going to top my favorite Stephen King books, but I have very high hopes for the horror-y aspect of this. Another book that I'm going to be reading is The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. This is an e-arc that I was gifted on NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and I have read 2 of Rachel Hawkins' 3 thrillers previously, and I really enjoyed both of them. I went through them really quickly and just had so much fun with them. And this one is about a creepy mansion in North Carolina, my state. I didn't even know it was North Carolina until very recently. I haven't really read a lot of like inheritance thrillers, but I have enough faith in Rachel Hawkins and my taste in like a fun popcorn thriller. I am also going to be using this for the prompt for a random song to pick your read. So I shuffled my music, and the first song that came up was Try by Lawrence off their album The Living Room, and you can see that the cover of this is a living room. It's got a couch on it, and so does The Heiress. And then the last book that I know for sure I'm going to be vlogging as soon as my hold comes in is Ring Shout, and this is a horror about the KKK. I have only heard fantastic reviews about this book, even if too many people haven't necessarily been talking about it. So I am currently up in Virginia visiting my boyfriend, so I don't know how much reading I can actually get done, but I know we don't have a lot of set plans, but I am going to start off with Misery. Hi, welcome to Austin's room. So it's a couple days since day one, and I have been reading when I have been doing other things. You saw us do stuff for Austin's birthday. We went to laser tag, we watched some football, we went out to dinner, we watched the Christmas parade. It was a lot of fun. We went to the weekly farmers market last week, which they always do, and it's a lot of fun. And I found a book at a little free library. So I have read 125 pages of Misery by Stephen King. So we have gotten into Act 2 when he has started writing the book for her. So now that I know a little bit more, our main character is Paul Sheldon, who's an author who has written these like grocery store historical fiction books following a character called Misery. And he hates those books, and so in his last book he killed her off, while he's also working on things he considers to be his more serious work. And then he gets into a car accident after he drunk drives, and he is found by Annie Wilkes, and she full kidnaps this man and is holding him hostage in her house, and she doesn't think that there's any problem with that. And there is hints that she has done some dark stuff in her past, and that this is not out of the normal thing for her. But the thing that I didn't know is that she had not read that Misery was killed until after he was already in our house. She hadn't finished the book yet. So I thought that was interesting that like she already went to these lengths without knowing that she was killed. She has gotten him the infamous typewriter with the N that doesn't work, and he is trying to get himself out of the situation. I would have thought that this wouldn't have started in her house already. I guess I would have assumed that there would have been more build up to it, but I do think this is correct, and it's going quicker than I thought it would, because I think a lot of Stephen King's books are more dense. I swear every single person except for Austin in this house is sick. So there's no way I'm getting home without being ill. So I don't love that for me. And I also started The Heiress, so I can actually tell you about it now. We have two main characters, which are a married couple. There's Cam and there's Jules. Cam is an heir to a pretty big house in North Carolina. He was adopted as a baby by an older woman who is an heiress to this house in North Carolina. It's kind of Biltmore-y. She has just passed away. The family that he has shirked is asking him to come home to handle everything. But there's also a mystery of the woman who died, Ruby. She was kidnapped as a baby for several months by another family who claimed she was her daughter. There was an epigraph at the beginning that mentioned changelings. We don't have much planned for the day. We're basically all chilling out. They're watching football and eating some birthday cake, which he saw me make. The decoration wasn't exactly as neat as I wanted it to be, but it got the point across. So I will check back in with you when I have more reading done, and hopefully I'm not sick. Hi, it's the next day. I just got back from work. I am starting to feel a little bit sick, so I kind of am anticipating needing to telework or take off tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. But I did get to stop by my local game store and pick up an early Christmas present for myself. My sister bought it for me, but since it's in the town that I live in and not where she is, I get to get it early, and that's this cute little lounge fly that has Ewoks. I am a casual Star Wars fan. I've really only watched the original movies, and Ewoks are absolutely one of my favorite parts of it. I have a couple stuffed Ewoks, and I just love them so much. So since I'm not feeling well, I'm probably gonna take it easy and either be reading a ton or crocheting some. I just got 2 Christmas orders on my Etsy. I'm going to be making more of my Kaladin dolls, so I haven't had 2 orders at the same time before, so I have a little bit more of a deadline, and I also want it to get ordered in time for Christmas. But I read a little bit more of Misery earlier. We're getting to know a little bit more about Annie, and our main character is getting a little bit more of his bearings, but it's also interesting seeing how his mind is adapting to being in this captive situation, because even though he hated Misery in that book series, being forced to come up with a type of plot has been driving him to stay alive, even though he still had the will to live, but it has been driving him in a way that he didn't expect. I knew that this was about a writer, but I didn't think it was going to be as much about the writing. Obviously, there's the horror element of being locked in someone's house, but that creation element is a part of it, and that is something that I really like in books. I also should be getting Ring Shout in within the next couple days, so hopefully I will get that done. I'm gonna go chill out, especially since the sun is absolutely dying and you can barely see me. Yay!
This is me reading a pretty disturbing scene in Misery, but welcome to the voiceover as I got pretty sick. So, had some throat problems, what turned into a pretty big flu, but I was just having a bad time. But I took care of myself, and I started and finished Ring Shout, and here's what I thought.
I liked how to the point this book was. When I was first reading it, I was under the impression that it was going to, like, not scratch the itch, or like it wasn't going to be long enough, but I think it did get exactly to the point of what it wanted to do in terms of themes and the story. I wasn't as emotionally invested in the characters as I could have been if the book was like 300 pages, but I really liked the world that was built around this sort of horror scape. I don't know, it was really interesting, and it's something that I haven't really seen in the horror genre. Maybe it's something that I don't really pick up, but I had a good time with it, and I really loved the message of the book overall. I liked the action of it. I loved the descriptions. There were definitely some gross stuff in there. The reason I've been gravitating towards horror is because I love a good message in a book, and I love a good metaphor, and I feel like that's what a lot of horror that I like does. So this was successful. It won't be making like my favorite books of the year. I don't think it was perfect, but I think it'll be up there with my genre favorites of the year. I'm alive. Oh my goodness. I have broken out and I sound bad, but I am alive. I didn't feel like it for a while. There was a like 24-hour period where I was like, oh my god, I'm dying. But while I was sick, I did finish both Misery and Ring Shout. I let you know about my thoughts in the voiceover. It didn't get a lot of points for the readathon, but I had to read this for the buzzwordathon, so I have officially completed the buzzwordathon challenge. And while I was doing that, I did finish the body and the arms of the first Kaladin doll Christmas order that I have to do. So my goal after work today is to get the legs done. I now have a total of 3 orders that I need to complete. I've never had this many orders at once because I don't like advertise this because I'm like, this is a casual thing I do on the side. It's not like something I'm trying to grow into a huge gigantic business. But it's something fun that I like doing. Editing Julie here. I realized I never really wrapped up my thoughts on Misery, but I did enjoy it. This is like my 8th or 9th Stephen King. It's like at the top of the 50% mark, where the top ones I've loved and the bottom ones I've had problems with or actually really disliked. I loved how this was a metaphor for King's struggle with addiction. I loved the type of horror that this was. The main character's not in the right state of mind all the time because of what he's being forced into. Annie Wilkes is a really fascinating character. I just loved everything that went wrong. It is exactly what I wanted out of this book, which makes it very successful. Definitely recommend. I would probably recommend this or The Shining to be someone's first Stephen King. Now I'm over a third of the way into The Heiress. This is interesting because it's got like 3 different perspectives, and I didn't know that going in. I thought we were going to be following Jules. But right now we are following we have a little bit of Jules, a little bit of Cam, more Cam than Jules so far. And then there's a lot of it that is letters from Ruby telling about her life. And so it's more a historical fiction right now than it is a thriller. It's keeping my attention, but I'm not loving it. I needed to bring up the thrillery vibes. And at this point, they have finally made it to the house. And Jules, who didn't come from money, is like experiencing this like really nice house for the first time, which is fun. Hello, it's the next day, and I didn't update you because I didn't start reading The Heiress until the last thing before bed, and I ended up finishing The Heiress last thing before bed. So this has made a not very interesting vlog. Finished the feet of Kaladin #1, so I'll stuff and attach these. But I didn't do anything else with it. And now I have another person inquiring about the stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I do have the time to get things out, but I don't want to turn anybody away. How people with actual real small businesses, I don't know how you do it. The dolls that I do make are actually time consuming, and when it comes to the amount of time that it takes to make them, they're actually underpriced. If I was trying to give myself like a wage, that sort of thing. But I don't know, I'm having a good time with this challenge. So I finished The Heiress. I just plowed through it. I wanted to, because the 1st through the 7th is the first week of the readathon, I wanted to finish all of my Tower Tundra books in the first week so they could all be in the check-in, and I did manage to finish the book just a little bit before midnight. Was that a responsible decision? Absolutely not. But this ended up being the score for the end of the week. So each week I will be giving an update. It works out. Currently we have Fortress Frost in the lead with Castle Coco a little bit behind them, and then Tower Tundra. But The Heiress. So, I told you about how I was confused by like the split perspectives. Not in terms of like I couldn't follow what was happening, but it just didn't feel like it had a focus. So her last book, The Villa, it was a two-fold story. We had a main character who was discovering a manuscript, so we were flipping back and forth between that character's experience and the manuscript. And that was so engrossing and engaging, and I was so obsessed with reading that book and I didn't want to put it down. And this one, I did not feel the same way. There's the letters that like I didn't care about. We're following this woman who has had 4 different husbands who have all died, and it's like, ooh, people think that she killed them, woo, and it's her telling the story. And then there's the married couple who are coming back to the house. I felt like you could have had a stronger character voice between the two so that it wasn't, so I didn't forget who I was reading about. Like if I picked up in the middle of a chapter or something like that. This was pitched very much as Jules, the wife, being the main character, and I don't feel like that was what actually happened. I feel like Ruby was the main character, and we just get side bits about the other characters. Then, like, by the ending, they're making it out like Jules is the main character, and I'm like, she's not. There were bits and pieces of, like, a sort of Knives Out type family drama that I liked, but like because that wasn't what we were following for the most of the book, it didn't have a punch. All of the twists I felt like weren't surprising at all, just because we were split between too many different people. The one thing that I will say that I did like is that there was a very subtle reference to a literary character that I believe is supposed to be the inspiration for Jules's character. Having read her other books, I understood that that's what this character was supposed to be to begin with. So like it wasn't a surprise. And there was sort of a narrative shift in how Jules spoke to the audience that like felt immature. I don't know. It felt like a new author trying like something in their debut novel versus someone who's written a couple of thrillers by now. I don't know. I wanted something more thrillery. I wanted a more cohesive narrative rather than flipping back and forth between a lot of things, because I just don't feel like any of the narratives was as interesting as it could have been. So that was a bummer to end off with. This was a little bit of a bummer vlog. I got sick halfway through and I sound sick still, so like, I'm sorry Tower Tundra for having such a shitty vlog for you, but I'm sure you guys will catch up to the others. You have plenty of time. Next week I'm going to be reading alongside Fortress Frost, so keep an eye out for that. If you'd like to join the readathon, again, all the links that you need are in the description and they all link to each other. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know how the readathon is going for you. And as always, I will see you in the next one.